Good evening, Bahamas. Coming up tonight.
An attempted robbery lands the suspects in the hospital.
A leading environmentalist is responding to Disney's promises that they'll develop Lighthouse Point sustainably.
One of the survivors for the Labor Day tragedy speaks out about her road to recovery.
Our News is brought to you by Alive.
Welcome to Our News and thanks for joining us. I'm Kyle Joaquin. An attempted robbery this morning ended with one suspect in hospital and the other on the run. The scene erupted outside Royal Bank of Canada on Prince Charles Drive. With more on this, here's Jillian Gray.
It was a frightening scene today as robbers attempted to steal deposit bags from a security company. Bystander videos and voice notes flooded social media with accounts of what happened.
They just tried to rob the bank on Prince Charles. I was here trying to get my kids something to eat. Shootout. I think the driver is down, but God is good. I went and I ducked low. But it was a big scene out here today.
Official reports are that the security company was about to enter RBC on Prince Charles Drive to make a deposit when the occupants of a champagne-colored Nissan Passo jumped out of the vehicle and snatched several deposit bags.
There was a K9 unit from the Department of Correction in the vicinity at the time of the incident. Concerned citizens beckoned to that vehicle, pointing out to them the suspected vehicle that both individuals got in that snatched the deposit bags. The officers, they came from their department's vehicle and they walked towards the vehicle where the suspected persons were in. As they did so, the driver of that vehicle sped off towards the officers. The officers, being in fear of their life, produced their service pistol and they discharged several rounds at the driver of that vehicle, subsequently shooting that suspect.
While one of the suspects escaped, the other was transported to hospital by an ambulance. Though officers discharged their weapon, they are not sure if the robbers were armed.
I was told that one of the individuals had an object in his possession which resembled a firearm.
During the altercation, the deposit bag dropped. While officers recovered some of the bags, Cash says they will have to coordinate with the bank and security company to determine if all bags are accounted for.
Now, as this attempted robbery happened shortly after noon, police are encouraging the public to remain aware of their surroundings and be sure to look out for any suspicious activity.
Be cognizant of their surrounding. Always look, about your surrounding where you're making these deposits, because people could be around just lurking. So you need to, be on your P's and Q's.
Superintendent Cash described the suspects as crafty, as the vehicle used in the crime was disguised as a public vehicle, even though it was a rental.
Here it is, you have a vehicle that appears to be a private vehicle with a private registration plate, but just beneath the private registration plate is SD plates. So from that, we suspect this vehicle may be a rental vehicle, and they defaced it so it can look as if it's a regular vehicle driving throughout the community.
Officers say they are running those plates to determine if they were stolen and will question the SD company to see who rented the vehicle. Reporting for Our News, I'm Jillian Gray.
All right, thanks, Jillian. Well, 44-year-old Latoya Seymour was sentenced to 2 years and 2 months behind bars after she admitted to defrauding 15 people out of just over $8,400. According to the facts of the case, Seymour represented herself as an employee of Albany and Lyford Key who had access to furniture and appliances being sold by the resort communities. Over the course of 2 weeks during the month of September, Seymour collected $8,400 from 15 different people who never received the goods they paid for. When the money was not repaid, reports were made to police and Seymour was arrested. At that time, she admitted to committing the offense, saying she was desperate to pay a very large bill. Magistrate Darren Stroll Davis stated that it was unlikely that Seymour would pay the money back and she cannot go unscathed. He sentenced her with the penalty substantially reduced due to her early guilty plea. Also from the courts, 20-year-old Nathan Bain, seen in the white shirt, was sentenced to a year in prison after he pleaded guilty to defrauding 6 people out of nearly $250 in cash and an additional $230 worth of government-issued identifications. The court heard that Bain met with the complainants using an assumed identity and told them he could secure them hotel jobs in exchange for cash and their passports, voting cards, and NIB cards. Upon arriving at the hotels for their first days of work, the individuals were told by resort staff that there was no work for them and they had no record of Bain or his alias. Bain told the court he was influenced by his brother to commit the crimes and he was desperate for cash to support his newborn daughter. In other news, Disney Cruise Line says if its proposal for the development of a cruise port in South Eleuthera is approved, salt ponds on the property would be preserved and the government would be granted 170 acres of land for conservation. Jared Higgs reports.
As environmentalists oppose the development of a cruise port at Lighthouse Point, Disney's president Jeff Volley has taken to the local press to make the case for why the company would be a great partner for South Eleuthera. Promising that salt ponds on the 700-acre property would be preserved, Volley insisted that Disney's development is designed to have as little impact as possible on the natural environment.
It disturbs me greatly that we've got somebody on the ground in Eleuthera who has more than shown that he's capable of doing what needs to be done to help Eleuthera's economy. And yet, you know, Disney is coming in saying essentially all the things that One Eleuthera has been saying for 10 years.
The foundation has presented a plan to the government outlining how it would purchase the property, while the Bahamas National Trust has called on the area to be designated as a national park and developed as an eco-friendly tourist site. And while Disney boasted that Bahamian workers at its other cruise port, Castaway Cay, earned wages that were on average 50% higher than the country's minimum wage, Duncombe says that doesn't tell the whole story.
And if you look up Castaway Cay's, their job recruitment program is all foreigners. Where are the Bahamians that work at Castaway Cay's?
Duncombe was adamant that the economic model has been the same for years with the same result every time.
The developer comes in and we throw our hands up and say, oh yes, please come and save us. The reality is that if we don't start saving ourselves, if we don't start getting involved in the process and speaking out when we know that there are beaches or spaces of natural beauty that will benefit the community if they're left alone, if we don't start making more noise about that, we will continue to have this conversation. Minister of Tourism Dionisio de Aguilar recently affirmed that no sitting politician would approve the commercial development of the actual lighthouse site or the surrounding beach. However, he said the jury was still out on whether a portion of the 700-acre privately owned site could be developed. You know, the Minnis government said that they were going to be inclusive and transparent, and they've been anything but. You can't have a situation where, on the one hand, you're saying that you want our input, and then when we give it to you, we're basically ignored. Reporting for Our News, I am Jared Higgs.
All right, thanks, Jared. Well, after a tense week that saw demonstrations by two unions representing doctors at Princess Margaret Hospital, Managing Director of the Public Hospitals Authority, Catherine Weech, confirming today that the PHA officials met with one of those unions this morning. Jasmine Brown reports.
The PHA Managing Director says despite those two demonstrations last week, both sides were able to sit down this morning to iron out their concerns.
Today we've had meetings with the junior doctors in light of our efforts to continue to bring them to the table and to address the matters that affect both their concerns and the concerns of the PHA.
Junior physicians demonstrated in front of PMH on Tuesday, claiming they are being ill-treated and that they are being denied certain key benefits. The Consultant Physician Staff Association held a demonstration at PMH on Wednesday to warn that if their demands aren't met, they will take industrial action. Weech said that operations at the hospital were minimally impacted during those demonstrations.
I hope that we would all see the value in coming to the table because I believe that they understand that they are valuable to our healthcare delivery system and that whatever progress we make, we must make as a team. And so we're happy, we're mindful of the fact that that would take place.
When asked about the meeting with the junior doctors on Monday morning, Weech insisted it was a cordial one. However, she admitted that she wasn't sure tensions would be eased anytime soon, given the fact that the PHA does not have the money to meet the union's demands.
We will continue to work with them to present our position and allow the policymakers to guide us accordingly.
During a press conference on Friday afternoon, the PHA advised that it remains fiscally challenged and cannot expand salaries and benefits given the current state of Princess Margaret Hospital and the scope of works needed there. Weech said the PHA's approved funding from the government of $216 million and its projected collections from patient revenues of $13 million result in a $25 million shortfall of its projected operating cost of $254 million for the current fiscal year. Our news team reached out to the union, however, leaders declined to comment, saying they planned on giving a detailed response later this week. Reporting for our news, I'm Jasmine Brown.
The Free National Movement chairman has accused some key civil servants of working against the Minutes administration.
We have a number of civil servants in key positions that wear their politics on their sleeve. And, we need to understand that you work for the Bahamian people.
According to the F&M chairman, after 17 months in office, the Minutes administration has an even bigger problem on its hands. Key players in government offices working on their own agenda.
Do what is right for the people. We don't expect you to try to stagnate or put in your desk or whatever projects that entrain to come online when a number of these things are happening.
Culmer says some of those people hold key positions, shelving projects and initiatives brought forward by the Minutes administration. The F&M chairman insists it's politically motivated.
It's been brought to my attention that there are some persons in place that have been doing some things along that nature. And, I cry shame on those persons who try to use political or being used by political operatives to stagnate the growth and development of the party or the government.
Still to come on our news, a survivor of the Labor Day tragedy speaks out on her recovery. Plus, the hospital administrator back to work after being placed on leave. Stay tuned.